Hi, Frankie. I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on the defeat to Wolves, looking ahead to the Bournemouth game. But first, I want to start with an article which I sent you just before we start recording this, which is reporting that Graham Potter has an 18-month break clause in his contract, so that at the end of next season, West Ham can release Potter with no compensation. And likewise, Potter can walk away from the job and West Ham can't reject any resignation. What did you make of it when you read it?
Cool. The last point there, that I'm not sure there'll be a queue of people lining up to take him away at the moment. That's for sure. But I think it's a really sensible thing, and we know that there was a lot of discussions around this 6-month contract, and all of a sudden that seemed it really felt like we were sticking to our guns with that as well. Which, after the kind of run of managers that we've had, seemed like a really sensible thing to do and a nice change of approach. So, but obviously, Potter felt like he needed and deserved longer. He sort of dug his heels in as well, and all of a sudden it seemed to move forward. And I don't think anyone really knew exactly what the final terms were. So one, it's nice to know now
Yeah.
how that situation got resolved, and the sort of mutual agreement that they came to, bit of compromise. But now it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable, because it would be mad to make a change before next season, to be perfectly honest, regardless of how results are panning out, because at the end of the day, he's inherited a team. Plenty of managers have not looked like they're capable or that it's going to work out in the first months. And then suddenly everything can click and come together, and things can be very different. So, yeah, he certainly needed a bit of a run into next season. And the fact that, we've got a nice option in there to make a change if we should so wish at the end of that season, then all makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense for both parties. I think it makes sense for Potter as well that if he was feeling uncomfortable at the end of next season, he can just walk away. And imagine if he does it, he's doing it with his head held high as well. And I think it made sense from West Ham's perspective. And when we appointed him initially, I remember thinking, and to be fair, I still kind of do think that he's possibly what we need next season, in the sense of just having a season of stability and boringness, because this season's been chaotic at West Ham. It's been very messy. And I think next year we can just have a season of smooth sailing. Whether we get there or not, we have to wait and see. But at the end of next season, I think it would be a good point to have that conversation, which is he the right man for the job? Because ultimately, break clause or not, he would only have 12 months to go in his contract. And you would need to be having that discussion regardless whether you give him a new deal or you're looking at moving him on in a year's time. And therefore, you'd be having to look for potential candidates to replace him. So I think the break clause just makes sense for both parties. And like you said, the clarity is a good thing, because there's always been like curiosity as to what the actual terms were. And it was believed it was just a 2.5-year straight contract. And while that has happened, there is a clause in there too. Let's actually, anything else you'd like to discuss regarding Potter's situation before we discuss the actual football matches?
No, not really. Only the fact that you sort of touched upon, maybe boring is what we need next season. A season of stability, no chaos. But I think boring's only acceptable if the results are
Yeah,
acceptable.
yeah.
I think that's a really big point. And last night you go there under some of our previous managers, and it might have been boring, but you do nick it 1-0. So that's the difference. We didn't nick it 1-0 this time. This time we got turned over. That will quickly deteriorate into extreme frustration, and really, fans getting quite annoyed if you're not only being boring, but you're being boring and getting beat. So it only
Yeah.
works if we're also getting results.
Yeah, but I think a boring season would insinuate that you're not in a relegation battle and you're not, competing at the top. So
Well,
therefore,
that's where we are now, but it's still causing frustration, isn't it?
yeah, but I think maybe not this season or last season, perhaps not next, but in years gone by, if you're sitting, 16th in the Premier League, there's a good chance you have been involved in a relegation battle. I just think we've been really fortunate this season that the three sides that are currently occupying those bottom three spaces are just that bad. I had Sky Sports News on this morning. They're trying to really push is there still a title race? No, there hasn't been for a while, mate. It doesn't matter if Arsenal win; it's not happening. And they're trying to push that. Is there a relegation battle because Ipswich beat Bournemouth? And you're looking at, well, maybe, but they've got to beat Wolves at the weekend. Then it's a 6-point gap with 7 games to go. Then maybe, but at the minute, no. Like, they've won a game of football, but unfortunately for you, Sky Sports, that needs something. Wolves also won a game of football, so the gap hasn't actually altered from where it was a week ago before this round of fixtures got underway. And I think we almost deserve to be in a relegation battle this season, but by hook or crook, Lopetegui got us enough points so that we were never really looking over our shoulder too much. But there we have it. And speaking of that defeat against Wolves, what did you make of the match?
Yeah, really quite frustrating. Lineup was weird. We'd all sort of discussed a bit of what we felt that lineup would be, and a lot of channels discussed it. If anyone saw Guilherme starting, that was very random. He went a bit mad, didn't he? I don't quite know what his plan was with that, to be honest. It was just strange from the start. Ferguson starting. Yeah, it was just from the off. It gave me a little bit of intrigue because I was like hoping that some of what he'd done would show something different than what we'd seen already over the last few weeks. But I never really had confidence once I saw that lineup. The back line to me scared me. Like we said, we'd seen us play Wolves in a pre-season friendly using a similar sort of system, and it played into their hands. And I think it kind of did again. I don't think it caused them any problems, really. I felt they were very comfortable with what we did and how Potter had us set up. And then you had the situation, watch Gonzo's video this morning, and since some fans have said that he was under pressure to try and be more attacking. He was under pressure to try and be a little bit different. And it's our fault that the results have ended up the way that it did against Wolves because, you know, he just did something that he wouldn't normally do. I just don't see it that way. If you look back to the Lopetegui situation as well, I said this to you as well. I said, Lopetegui's playing football that he doesn't typically play. He wasn't playing a system that he normally would play. It was a little bit out of character for him. And I sort of said to you, if he went back to what he normally does and started getting results, but it was really boring football, would we be okay with that? And everybody said no. So again, we've already spoken on this show about boring but getting results. But at that moment in time, when we spoke about it with Lopetegui, it was no, we don't want to see that. We do need to see better football, more progressive football, and so on. But who put Lopetegui under pressure to create that? I don't blame that on the fans. You know, I think he got a clear communication from the board to say, you've got to be a little bit more. And I think even when he signed the contract, it was, you've got to be a bit more on the front foot. So, you know, you could sit here and point fingers at the people on social media and you know, the West Ham YouTubers and so on for being a bit disgruntled with the fact we've been so defensive so far. But Lopetegui, I think, played differently through board pressure, not fan pressure. And I wouldn't be surprised if in discussions early on with Potter, it was a similar sort of thing. And it would reflect on the fact that he'd been told by the board that that was an expectation, because in his interviews, he kept banging on about being more entertaining, being this, being that. 100%. So it may be coming from the board. I think everyone's pointing at us at the moment, fickle this, fickle that, too much pressure to expect too much. You want him to be different to what he normally does as a manager. I'm not sure it's the fans. I'm not sure it's the YouTubers or influencers. I think that's a communication from the board.
I think if it was the fans, hypothetically, I think we've got a serious issue that we would generally have a head coach paid $5 million a year and he's doing what social media wants him to do. That would be the biggest issue, and it would be an incredibly lot. Like nobody's going to do it. Like even I won't change my opinions or my content based on what people say in the comment section. You're never ever going to convince me. Graham Potter comes along, listens to what the fans are saying online, and goes, "Well, yeah, I'm going to change my tactics." No, not a chance. I just don't believe it for a second. And the thing is, like you said, as soon as Potter arrived, he's spoken about how he's got to play entertaining football. And immediately after the game against Wolves, in his post-match interview, he was speaking that they didn't attack well enough. They need to be better in attack. So it's not like he's come out and gone, oh, yeah, we did all right, actually. And then there's all this feedback from fans and he's changed his opinion based off that. He doesn't know what fans are saying after the game against Wolves because he's not had his downtime, if you like. He's gone straight from the pitch to the tunnel to the interview room. And in that interview room, he said, we need to be better attacking. So it's him that's saying it as well. I would suggest that Potter agrees with the fan base to some extent. But if you go back to, what you were talking about, Lopetegui and the sort of results / performances, I think there was 2 reasons that Lopetegui got the job in the first place, in the sense that Moyes departed the club. And this is my perspective. There was 2 reasons. One, the involvement or the increasing influence of Tim Steidten. So going by what David Moyes said about how he was offered a contract, but he perhaps wasn't happy with it. My interpretation of that was there was something in there that Steidten was going to have more control in the transfer market, and Moyes was unhappy with that. And 2, well, it was the entertainment side of things in regards to David Moyes, because not everyone agrees with this, and that's okay. But my thoughts on Moyes was the results were fine, not individually. Before someone says, "Oh, you're okay getting smashed 5-0 against Fulham," not the individual games, but the overall landscape. 7, 6, 13 to 14 to winning a trophy, and then last season 9th, which I think we can agree. Well, I certainly feel like towards the end of the season, the players were down in tools a little bit because of everything going on, and also we focused on the Europa League and tried to beat Bayer Leverkusen. So actually, I think the results is a bigger picture under Moyes. They were all right. It was just the individual games sometimes, but also just it wasn't very enjoyable. And I think the first 2 seasons were really good, and the other 2 seasons, albeit we won a trophy, wasn't very good on the pitch. So the reason for change wasn't necessarily, for me, the overall results. So if Lopetegui came in and played better football and we finished 9th this season, I'd be happy with that. I'd say that's a good season. Not a successful one per se, but it's a good, solid one that we can look forward to next year. So I think Lopetegui would have been under the instruction, as you said, to be a bit more entertaining. But even if he wasn't, surely when you take a job, you have a look at why the guy you're replacing has left and think, right, I'm not going to do that. And if Lopetegui had the correct understanding, he would be aware that he's perhaps got to produce something on the pitch which the fans enjoy more than what was produced last season. And it's the same for Potter. He'll come in and think, right, okay, I'm going to have to entertain the fan base, improve results. Granted, at the minute, he's not really doing either of them. But I think this is where Potter getting that contract with a break clause makes even more sense for me, because there was a subscriber left a comment, Hell's Bells, Harry, I think his name is, and I still think it was a really, really good question, which was basically, had Potter come in a 6-month deal with the 2-year clause, like West Ham were trying to get, at this point, what would you do in the summer? Would you give him that 2 years, or would you say, off you go? And I'm probably on the off you go side of things. I don't want him sacked, but if that's the situation, because if Potter had come in with that contract, he would have had to really grind out results immediately. He would have had to play even more boring and even more defensive and get that 1-0, so that come the end of the season, we're sitting 13th in the league. The board go, excellent, well done, here's your 2 years. Is he experimenting? I'm not 100% sure, but I would suggest that starting Guilherme, I would put that down as experimenting. I actually thought he was okay on the ball. Was he a success? No, but I don't think it was a complete disaster. And I'm not against seeing him again. I would say that playing Ollie Scarl so much is considered experimenting, in my opinion. And I do think that he can only really do that knowing he's definitely here next season. Because had he been playing for a new deal, he'd have had to be 100% results focused as soon as he came in to get that extension. Anyway, I've been ramping on for a while. So anything you'd like to add to that?
No, just that I was quite surprised that, we played Guilherme and sort of Skulls on the same side of the pitch. It's very unusual that you do that.
I think he was intending on playing Kudus, but Kudus picked up an injury in training quite close to the game. And then rather than moving Paqueta forward or whatever, he just put Guilherme in to replace Kudus. I think his initial plan was to perhaps have Kudus with Bowen behind Ferguson, which I think would have made a significant difference.
I think so.
So maybe we'll see that on Saturday. Anything you'd like to add about Wolves or Potter before we move on to take a look at the Bournemouth game?
No, that's everything.
How are you feeling about Saturday? London Stadium, what are you thinking?
How else can you feel when it's football, when it's supposed to be 3:00 on a Saturday? The sun's going to be shining. The boats are there, Gio. You can go there. Like, what more do you want? I mean, you can only feel good.
A win.
Well, look, I know that's important, but it never was when I
know.
West Ham was never always about just winning. Just going over there and it's 3:00 on a Saturday. We ain't had one for so long. It's when football should be. You can go over there nice and early, bit of breakfast, then go and start having your beer, and then make your way up to the boats, and then get in the ground. And sun shining. I don't think there's anything better in this world than West Ham on a day like that. It's I'm really looking forward to it. Bournemouth are a really good side, but we've seen last night that they're beatable.
So they're not in good nick at the minute. I think since Potter's came in, they've picked up the same amount of points as we have.
Yeah,
so they're not
so
in
struggling
good
a little
form.
bit. No, and you can take a lot from last night of the blueprint of what needs to be done to sort of go and get a result against them. So, like you say, it's not. I mean, my confidence isn't coming from anything I've seen with us, but the fact that they're not quite there just makes it a match that you just think, yeah, come on, we can go and do something here. And he talks a lot about our home form's really important. And I just hope that the sun's shining, everyone's in a good mood. Just put that Wolves game behind us. It's done. Move on. We said it's all individual matches for us now. We've got no targets. We've got no issues that we're looking over our shoulder. So that game's already done and dusted. I've moved on. It's done. It's finished. And now we're just rolling on to Bournemouth. It's start again. And just try and get up for it, try and get a little bit of atmosphere. Look, we ain't got many games left of the season now, Gio. We've got to enjoy it while we can. So, we're going to have good weather. We can all go over there on a Saturday. No one's got, well, I'm sure people do have work, but the majority don't have work to consider. And we can just go and cheer the boys on and hopefully find this bit of entertainment that we're all looking for. I keep seeing videos with the "Are you entertained?" slogan attached to them, and I haven't seen any entertainment yet. So fingers crossed this is when it comes.
In terms of the personnel, do you have any wishes or desires for Saturday afternoon? What about a formation change? Would you like to see us maybe go to 4 at the back?
Possibly. They're so good at attacking, aren't they? They've got some really lively, really pacey, strong attacking players. And it just, while I'd always rather see West Ham have an extra man, whether that be in midfield or in attack or however you want to reshape things, they do concern me with their pace. And, we've got to be very organised. One thing that I didn't like that midfield against Wolves. I thought Ward-Prowse had one of his games that showed why we shipped him out.
Yeah, I thought he was crap, frankly.
Yeah, really, really poor. Wasn't good enough. So we need to mix it up in now. And again, with that Guilherme thing, though, mate, and I know what you're saying, maybe he planned to have Kudus out there. But again, I don't know if I'd have rather seen Paqueta out there. I don't know if I'd have rather seen that change. I think that would have maybe, been the more sensible move. Look, it's so hard, isn't it? We're all sitting here saying, "Oh, we want Guilherme to get minutes. We want,
To defend the choice, I mean, when the team come out, I was concerned about the midfield getting overrun. I think we got bullied more than overrun at the Molineux. But I think if he was, let's just say, late notice, Caruso picked up a knock. I think if he moves Paqueta forward, technically you're changing 2 players from your initial 11, aren't you? Paqueta's still there, but he's now, all in training, you've been preparing Ward-Prowse and Paqueta to play central midfield, and suddenly at last minute, it's like, actually, you're going up there, so we're going to get you ready to play in that position. Then we're going to bring someone else in, play next to Ward-Prowse, and that player would have been, I'd imagine, it might have been Alvarez, but it might have been Thomas Souček, and we've seen the Ward-Prowse-Souček combination enough times, I think, to know that doesn't work either. So I sort of get, I actually get why he did what he did, although I didn't like it and it didn't work. I sort of get it, and my only hope is he learns from that. So on
That's my
Saturday, you
point that I'm
don't
trying to
see
make.
Ward-Prowse.
Don't want to see it again.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it again, is what I'm getting at. It just, I know we keep saying this doesn't work, that doesn't work, every combination doesn't blooming work, but it really didn't work, and it was probably the worst. Like, as much as you and we know that Ward-Prowse and Souček in there isn't great, I preferred it to Ward-Prowse Paqueta, to be honest.
I'm not sure, because I actually think Paqueta had a good game. I know not everyone agrees, but I'm sticking by it. I thought he was good, but the problem is I thought Paqueta was our best player and Ward-Prowse was our worst player, next to each other. So I think the issue was more, Ward-Prowse was a common denominator, and he'd be one of the players I'd be benching this weekend. What about then the striker? Did you like a little bit of what Fulkrug had to offer? I thought I nearly had a goal there.
You didn't, did you?
No, I'm sad.
And that's, we could all say if buts and maybes, but it didn't. Look, is he our most natural centre forward? Yes. So it makes perfect sense. And not only that, but he did look like he had his tail up a little bit, and it looked like he's got a point to prove. And all the time you've got someone who's, chomping at the bit to prove a point, then I'm all for that. If he's up for it and he's ready, and like I say, the one thing you get from Fulkrug is more natural centre forward play. It's just the way he picks up positions, the way that he behaves like a proper centre forward. So that can only be a good thing, can't it?
Hopefully a hat trick. Give him a bit.
Give you a chance. Give you a chance.
Just half a chance would be good. Never mind. When it hit the bar, that just sums up sort of everything at the minute. Really, it's a bit of outstanding play, but not quite outstanding enough to yield anything. Score prediction. What are you fancying?
Oh, sun shining, feel good factor, stadium with a bit of atmosphere for a change.
No, we're at home, mate. We're not playing away.
Well, mate, I fancy it.
I'm just
I know
joking.
you are. I know you are. But I just think a few early beers, everyone feeling a good. That sun makes a lot of difference when you haven't got. Look, and I know everyone's going to say, "Oh, what difference does the bloody sun make?" Well, when you've got the stadium we've got, it does make a difference, because
100%. I completely agree. The weather does. It's a bit like to flip it around, if you've got to stand in the queues and whatever, and it's pissing away and you're miserable before you're even in the ground, aren't you?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So I'm hoping we'll be up for it. I'm gonna go. I wanted to go 2-1 because I think that's more sensible. I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to give you your Fulkrug hat trick, Gio. 3-1 West Ham.
Would love that. Would absolutely love that. I'd be a very happy hammer. Even if either of those things happened, I'd be very happy, assuming we don't lose 4-3. But to be fair, even that, assuming it's an end-to-end ding-dong and it's entertaining, it's a bit of fun. Anyway, if you only want your West Ham chat, now's the time for you to disappear. We're not finished just yet, but West Ham stuff is done. Before you go, though, or if you're sticking around, please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up, and subscribe if you're new to the YouTube channel. Both things are free. It takes 2 seconds and helps the channel out. Frankie, we've been talking about sunshine. We've been talking about fun. We've been talking about winning football matches. Have you had all of those 3 things at Cray?
We haven't, unfortunately, but it wasn't all bad. We drew at the weekend. So we actually had 2 draws. We had a draw on Saturday in a friendly against the team that was significantly higher than us. They were playing in the Premier League last year. They've dropped down 1 this year, but that's still 2 divisions above where we are. So we got a 4-4 draw against them on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday it finished 5-5 against Lewisham Project. So they were really physical. Really physical. They really knew how to rough you up and unsettle you. Actually, Gio, both videos from the Saturday friendly and the Sunday are on the Soccer Kid YouTube channel. So everyone who wants to have a look is welcome to go and have a little watch. They are quite long. They're like an hour long, but I'm editing the highlights basically, which will be up later on today, if that makes it a bit more enjoyable watching rather than, you know.
Are they wearing their new kit in either of the matches?
They would have been, yeah. But in fact, on Saturday, because we had a trialist, they wore bibs over the top, so you wouldn't have seen it. But this weekend's one, Gio, they will definitely be in the kit and no bibs, so you'll be fine this weekend.
We haven't even told people on the podcast, but if you're wondering what's going on, Hammers Chat sponsor one of the kits for Frankie's team. Just say thank you to Frankie for coming on. Frankie does this unpaid. Not that it's important to you, the viewer, but I'm stressing he doesn't get paid for this, gives up time at work. So we thought the least we could do is sponsor a kit for his team. So there's a Cray Wanderers team out there running around with Hammers Chat logo on the front of their shirt, drawing games 4-all, albeit with a bib on, and then drawing games 5-all as well. Entertaining football. You should get Porter down, show him what it's all about. Say this is entertainment.
Yeah, we should have recorded the one the week before. It was 15-9 the week before, Gio. So
how long was the game?
40 minutes. 40 minutes.
That I feel like that's what I used to do when I'd get bored one day and I'd go on FIFA and make the games half an hour each half or something. The game would end up 80-36 or something like that. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Frankie. Enjoy Saturday. I hope you get your beer, your sunshine, your 3-1 win, and I get my full crew hat trick. But I look forward to catching up with you next week and discussing it.
Sounds good, mate.
You guys at home, have a good one. Me and Frankie, catch you in a bit.